Andy, Mark, let me turn to you. You have been following the development of Chinese tech sectors. In what ways do you think DeepSeek distinguishes itself from other models and other algorithms and apps in the market around the world?
Well, Wang Guan, I think that what DeepSeek has accomplished is a very important milestone from several perspectives. So as we just heard, from the perspective of the artificial intelligence industry, it was able to deliver comparable results at a fraction of the cost. So what this means is that this actually challenges the most fundamental understanding of how the AI industry works. So many around the world, especially the technology leaders in the United States, have long believed that the way you improve AI, and in particular, the way you achieve artificial general intelligence, is by spending more money on more and more advanced chips, largely from Nvidia. And what DeepSeek has shown is not only can you do it with much less money, but you can focus on using software algorithms in a very clever way. So that's the first point. Second point, this challenges the American understanding of how generally economic and technological success works, in that it's long been an article of faith that breakthrough innovation only happens with quote-unquote free markets, quote-unquote democracies. And DeepSeek, of course, as a Chinese company, has really shattered these preconceptions. And finally, I think what DeepSeek has done is that it has challenged the prevailing economic model globally, in that it not only has achieved comparable performance to OpenAI's ChatGPT, but it has made it open source. And what this means is that anyone, anywhere around the world, can modify the code, improve it. So this has profound ramifications for the future speed of development. But it also is likely to empower those in the global south for whom cost is a very real barrier. And I think what this also shows is that DeepSeek is an example of China's vision to provide key global public goods.
Andy, how do you look at all these, talk about the algorithm being different and exciting, distillation technology, and potentially achieving, reaching the scaling law, meaning more data, high quality data being observed and obtained, driving us even closer to an artificial general intelligence. Andy?
Sure. Well, Guan, so my understanding is one of the biggest costs of training a large language model is the processing time that you have to run on these, again, very expensive GPUs typically made by Nvidia. So what DeepSeek has done is very clever engineering is probably the best way to describe it. So I'll use just a very quick example. So the standard for training a large language model is to use 32 bits, or you can think of it as 32 numbers, which takes up a reasonable amount of space. And when you multiply this by millions, billions, maybe trillions of calculations, this takes quite a lot of computing power and computing time. So one of the things DeepSeek did was they said, look, what if we could achieve roughly the same results only using 8 bits? And that's one of the things they did that sort of amazed the technical world. The other point I think it's important to mention too, Wang Guan, is the team that built DeepSeek is entirely educated in China. So again, this challenges, I think, another article of faith, right? That you need to have Western educated technical people to make big breakthroughs. And this shows that this is not the case. So what this means then is that, we can do much more with existing hardware and maybe lower capacity chips, reaching artificial general intelligence, meaning machines that are as smart, if not much smarter than humans, maybe much more within reach, and maybe that the first AGI will be a native Chinese speaker.
Thurston, you brought up the concept of the Sputnik moment. That is, of course, well studied. That was a moment in 1957, if I remember correctly, when Dwight Eisenhower, then President of the United States, was sufficiently alarmed by the Soviet Union, who put a manned spacecraft into the orbit. And then we know what followed. There was this intense arms race between the Soviet Union and the United States. A lot of resources were spent in that regard. So let me turn to you, Andy. Do you foresee another Sputnik moment, given the fact that Trump has been talking about containing DeepSeek? The U.S. Congress has been talking about getting alarmed by the DeepSeek. What's going to happen next?
Well, I think we certainly are witnessing a Sputnik-like moment here at Wangguan. And the optimistic view of this is something that the founders of Hewlett-Packard, which was once one of the technology leaders in Silicon Valley, said that competition brings out the best in products. And I think we already are seeing this in that since DeepSeek dropped or made its announcement, that OpenAI has accelerated the pace of its release of models. I think this is causing a rethink about what every serious player in the space has to do to be competitive. So here it's important to point out it's not just DeepSeek with its extremely low cost of training its model, but the other big cost is the operating of the model, which customers pay. And this is usually measured in how much dollars per million tokens. And we can think of a token as a word. And a number of Chinese companies, not just DeepSeek, offer their models at a fraction of the cost. I think for OpenAI, it's like $60 per million tokens. And what this means is that it's making everybody more innovative and more competitive. So this is the positive view of this Sputnik-like moment. Now, of course, the downside and the danger is we're already seeing the U.S. resorting to its familiar, if somewhat ineffective, playbook of saying this is a national security risk. So they've labeled Huawei a national security risk, other Chinese companies. And the track record has shown that this is all largely backfired in that Huawei has thrived despite the attacks by the U.S. China's EV industry has achieved global leadership technologically, cost-wise, even design-wise. So I think this is a Sputnik-like moment. My hope, though, is that this will accelerate innovation and competition around the world.
Let me jump in real quick. Given what happened to TikTok, given what happened to ZTE and Huawei back in the day, aka U.S. sanctions against them, what is the most likely fate of DeepSeek?
Yeah, I think we have to see one. So let's look at TikTok, for example. So President Trump was a vehement critic of TikTok, calling it a grave national security threat 2 or 3 years ago. Fast forward to today, where he says he has a warm spot in his heart for TikTok. And I think the key here is, can companies like ByteDance, like High Flyer, which is the company that launched the DeepSeek model, can they find a way to deliver decisive political value to powerful leaders in the U.S. like Trump? And I want to point out, too, even someone like Chuck Schumer, a Democrat in the Senate, has also largely pivoted in his negative views towards TikTok. So again, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I do hold out hope that a way can be found where these companies can still thrive all around the world, but especially in the United States.